Welcome back to another video. Today we're out here in the garage again with the wood lathe to discuss a question I get asked a lot. How long does it take to make one bowl? So answering that question can be kind of complicated, especially if it's a singular bowl. But I've drawn up this time slot. So I have to start by cutting the tree into the sections that I need. Then I have the cleanup of that, which could be blowing out the chainsaw, refueling the chainsaw, or just making sure my area is clean because Dad doesn't really like the pink shavings everywhere. Then I have to mount it on here with a faceplate, and if it's a clean cut, this is easier. I also have to spin it to the bowl shape that I'd like. Then I'd have to shave it down to the style I'd like to make sure it looks nice and put a coating on that. I have to turn it around and shave the inside down to the size I want. Then I'm gonna add a finish to it, whether that's beeswax or a food safe finish or some sort of butcher block. And then I have to sharpen all my tools and clean my workspace. So this can take a little bit. So you can follow me through what that process looks like. So now we're underneath my wood lathe where I have all of my cuts from the red cedar log that I cut up. I cut out the pith so that wasn't an issue for me later on. When I'm out there, this process took me about an hour. But as you can see, I got a lot more blocks than just a singular for one bowl. And then I was able to do one cleanup instead of multiple cleanups for the chainsaw. These are ready for my disposal whenever the lathe has an open spot. For cutting the tree and cleanup, it took about 1 hour. For the first screw, I don't like to put it in all the way. I leave it as a placeholder so that when the second one moves it, this one's here holding it back. I don't have a bandsaw big enough to cut these slabs the way I'd like. This comes out when I'm using the chainsaw. Before I cut the slab out of the log, I cut the corners off, like you can see here. That way, it's not taking me extra time on the lathe. She's ready to go. Let's get some safety equipment on and let's get turning. So I like to wear ear protection because I'll be running this machine for a little bit. Definitely gets loud in here. Right now I have this respirator. This helps. It wasn't plugged in. Where's my shield? I like to wear my left glove. I always like to have some backup sandpaper to get all the wet out of the cedar. It definitely rips up the sandpaper and will run you a lot of money if you go through all this. So I go from 60 to 120, 220, 320, and I even have some 600 if I feel like it. So this is what it looks like before the finish is on it. It's got this beautiful purple coloring to it, and the red cedar just smells so great. I mean, all these shavings, I mean, they're just amazing. Cedar is a very light fibrous wood and will light up on fire very fast, so I have to make sure that this area is cleaned so there's no combustion fires. So there's the true colors of the red cedar. With the little beeswax finish, it really makes that shine come out so true. And you see all the knots and the fibers here so spread. I like to keep some of the knots in here to show that it's natural. And this is just the outside of the bowl. So this is on the bottom. I'm going to try to coat that more with some beeswax. And then we're going to flip it over and start to carve the inside. So then the mounting and shaving. For some woods, this can take 30 minutes or less. For others, it can take up to 1 hour. Okay, so now I've put the chuck into the opening I've created on the back and switched it around. I always do this when this is mounted to the faceplate. That way I have a straight seal. One thing you want to note with red cedar is that since it's such a light wood, it does crack easily. So I don't want to tighten this too much. I'm just doing it to where there's tension, and the rest of this play has to be very gentle so that I don't lose the grip. To tighten this bowl, I'm going to turn it on and let it spin and loosen up into where the chucks are already tightened. Then I'm just going to give it the slightest, maybe 1/8 turn, just to make sure that it's all settled in. So now I'm at this stage, I gotta carve the inside of the bowl, and then we'll be done. So there's really no rush here. This is it. And I've gone past the bottom multiple times. I've gone out the outside a couple times. You don't want to go too deep, too fast. Just take your time. This is where the detail comes in.
Then for the inside, this could also take 30 minutes or less, or up to 1 hour.
So at this point, we finished the interior. This is what it looks like before the wax. I definitely need to sand. I like the way the outside looks. I like to do 2 coats of beeswax. That's just the thing I do. And that's what I'm going to do for this inside here to really brighten it up. I could go a bit deeper, but I like the way the bowl is, and I don't want to go too deep. So I'm just going to leave it where it is, and we're going to play with it.
So the finish can go from 5 minutes all the way up to 24 hours. Based on the finish you're using here.
So we finished the project. 1 bowl. Beautiful. Super smooth. Got shavings pretty much everywhere, even outside. Got shavings down on the ground. So it's definitely quite the cleanup on my side. The bowl is beautiful, I have to say that. It's definitely one of my favorites, especially with the purple and the orange. Such a good mixture. On the inside, I could have improved with a few of these gouges. I tried going over it with the beeswax, filling in these holes, and it came out the way it did, but I like it. Definitely pretty. So now I have to clean up all of this, and luckily I have my vacuum coming through the wall here so I can get all this out. I put most of the shavings in this box down here and bring those out to the fire pit along with this whole contraption down into there. We're done up here, so I no longer need it to be plugged in. So we're really trying to reduce the amount of piles we have so that there's no combustion fires.
And then the sharpening, that's very consistent, but it doesn't take too long, so this could take 10 minutes or less.
So now I'm over here with the grinder. These are the 4 tools I use most commonly. You have your bowl gouge, which definitely is my most used tool. You have your chisels. I have 2 different sizes based on the finish I'm going for. So that's what you're looking for right there when it erases all the black in one stroke. And you're going to want to keep your hand there and get all that black away. Yep, just like that. Alright, so there's our completed bowl. For tonight we made 1 bowl, and I already had the chunks of wood cut and ready to get on the lathe. Took me about 1 hour to get it to this version of a bowl. Nothing too crazy on the detail, just a little curve here. So I would say averagely it takes me about 1 hour to make 1 bowl. However, the more bowls I do, the shorter that time will take, especially with cedar, because it's such a light fibrous wood. The more I do, I could probably bang these out in about 45 minutes, maybe down to 30. Again, I'm gonna have to sharpen my tools for every single bowl. I'm gonna have to clean up at the end of all the bowls. So looking over it, when I cut a tree up, I'm gonna make more than 1 bowl from that. There's gonna be more than 1 blank. So those hours get split between all the bowls. Then I have all the cutting. The individual spinning, that's gonna take the longest. Those turns take the longest. But when the design is simple, the wood doesn't have any cracks, any rotten spots in it, and it cooperates, then I can bang these bowls out in about 40 minutes, 45 minutes. So if it's 1 bowl, it'll take longer. If it's a lot of bowls, it'll take shorter. Thanks for watching. See you next time.